This is my 2012 Mercedes-Benz E63 AMG Wagon, but it won't be for much longer. That's because I am selling my E63 Wagon on Cars and Bids, which is my new online enthusiast car auction website designed for the buying and selling of modern enthusiast cars like this one. My E63 Wagon is live right now on Cars and Bids with no reserve. You can go bid on it and buy it if you click the link in the description below to check out Cars and Bids and my auction. In today's video, I'm going to sum up 3 years of ownership with my AMG station wagon. I'm going to start by telling you a little bit about Cars and Bids. This is a new online enthusiast car auction website that I've created with the help of a talented team. I've explained Cars and Bids in a video on my main channel, Doug DeMuro, which I will link in the description below. Cars and Bids is focused on auctioning enthusiast cars from the modern era. That's the 1980s, the 90s, the 2000s, the 2010s, and the 2020s. And my station wagon is our very first auction. And it's going up no reserve, meaning whatever it gets bid up to, that's what it's selling for. Cars and Bids is offering $1,000 to the first 50 sellers on the site and $500 to the next 50 sellers. So if you're thinking about selling your cool car, go and check out Cars and Bids. So with that in mind, let's talk E63 AMG Wagon. I bought this car 3 years ago, and although I don't talk about it all that much on my channels, it's been my trusty daily driver ever since. I bought it in Minnesota and I drove it home to Philadelphia, where I was living at the time, and when I moved from Philadelphia to San Diego, I loaded up this car with my stuff and drove it across the country. These days, I use this car to drive to all my video film shoots all over Southern California. This is the car, my trusty station wagon, the one I'm driving. Today in this video, I'm going to tell you why I'm selling it, and then I'm going to go over some of the benefits and drawbacks I've discovered about this E63 AMG wagon after 3 years and 35,000 miles of ownership. First, let's talk about why I'm selling my AMG wagon. There are a few reasons actually. One big one is that the warranty is expiring in August. I bought my AMG wagon with a Mercedes-Benz certified pre-owned warranty. That comes standard with 1 year of coverage. I paid extra to extend it for 2 additional years, and now that is expiring in August. More on that Mercedes-Benz CPO warranty in a few minutes, by the way. Let's just say it's been a bumpy ride. Anyway, the car is also closing in on 90,000 miles, and I figured, you know, warranty is expiring, miles are getting up there, maybe it's time to start thinking about moving on to something else. But it's not all about the warranty and the miles. When I bought my AMG wagon, I lived on the East Coast in a crowded East Coast apartment, and I only had 1 parking spot. So I needed a car that could do it all, basically haul stuff and be a sports car and be a luxury car, and the AMG wagon just made the most sense. But since then I've moved to California, and now I have more space for cars, and I can get more cars for more purposes. A fun car for canyon driving, SUVs for carrying stuff, and I don't need a one car for everything anymore. So I only drive this car around Southern California to film my videos, and frankly, I just don't need something this big and inefficient to sit on the freeway for hours at a time. Plus, I wanted to launch Cars and Bids with something cool, and it just made sense to have the E63 wagon fill that role. As for what's replacing my wagon, well, I've already bought the replacement car, and I will reveal it to you later this week. But for now, I want to tell you some of the things I liked and some of the things I didn't like about my AMG wagon during my 3 years of owning it. All right, I'm going to start the quirks and features. Just kidding. I'm going to start the pros and cons with the cons. I'm going to discuss some of the drawbacks I've noticed in my 3 years of AMG Wagon ownership. Now, these aren't in any particular order. I'm just going to give them to you as I thought of them. And number one is the ride quality is pretty harsh. Now, my AMG Wagon has 18-inch wheels. 19s were actually standard on this body style, but for no cost, you could downgrade and get a smaller wheel size in case you wanted a better ride and if you wanted to fit winter tires. So this car has the downsized 18-inch wheels, and yet the ride quality is still pretty harsh. Now, if you're getting a sporty car, an AMG, you might not care about that. In fact, you might appreciate it and want it, but I always found it to be surprisingly uncomfortable, especially considering there are several different suspension settings. You would think the most comfortable one would be pretty comfortable, but that's not really true. I found this car to be harsh even in comfort mode. And next up, number two drawback, this car is inefficient. Now, this is, again, probably something you're expecting if you're going into 520 horsepower V8 station wagon ownership, but just be warned, I was getting 18, 19 miles per gallon on the highway. Granted, I drive pretty fast, but still, it's just very, very inefficient, especially compared to modern cars with turbo V6s, smaller turbo V8s. This thing is kind of old world with its fuel economy, and I was never really thrilled with that aspect of it. And next up, here's one we can probably all agree about. I really don't like the color combination for this car. I love the exterior. White, I think, looks great on this body style of AMG Wagon, but the interior is just the oldest elderly person spec you could imagine. Beige seats, beige lower dash, kind of light walnut, and then a brown upper dash and a brown steering wheel. This car was ordered by an old person, and it belongs with an old person. Now, that does enhance the subtlety of the whole AMG Wagon experience. No one getting into this car would ever have any idea that they're getting into a performance car, which is kind of neat. But this is undoubtedly the most elderly, old person retirement home way you could have possibly ordered this car back in 2012, with a beige and brown interior and the smaller wheels for a more comfortable ride. And next up, another drawback for me is that this car is simply too big. I don't have a family, I don't have kids, I never really needed a station wagon. I got it because it was cool. But you take this thing on mountain roads, canyon roads, you want to have fun, and it feels heavy. The steering is very good, very responsive, the performance is there, but the car just can't escape the fact that it is ultimately a pretty big station wagon. And I wouldn't recommend it to anybody like me who got it because it was cool. Only get it if you really need the space, because you'll be feeling it when you drive around. And finally, another big drawback worth noting in this car was my Mercedes-Benz certified pre-owned warranty. I put warranty in quotes there because this warranty denied pretty much every claim I ever made. Now, it covered some stuff early on, a few $100s here and there when I still lived in Pennsylvania, but then more stuff started breaking as the car aged. For instance, at one point, only one windshield wiper was working. The passenger side wiper broke, the driver's side wiper continued on. This wasn't a big deal, especially in San Diego. It doesn't rain all that much. Took it into the dealer. They said, sorry, your warranty claim was denied. That's normal wear and tear. Interesting. Either Mercedes-Benz is implying that it's normal for only one windshield wiper to work after like 7 years of car ownership, or their warranty is just crap. Wasn't really sure which one it was until more recently when there was an even bigger problem. About a month ago, the car would simply die. I would drive it somewhere, park it, and then the radiator fan would run and run and run until the battery died. Something was obviously going on. So I took it into the dealer, confident that my warranty would pick up this bizarre draw on the battery. The dealership dug into it and they discovered that a little bit of water was coming down in through the windshield seam and into a connector for the radiator fan. It turned out the windshield had been replaced early in the car's ownership and it wasn't sealed properly, and so a little bit of water got in and eventually caused that problem. Now, in normal circumstances, I would understand if a warranty didn't want to cover this. Some loser replaced the windshield poorly, and why would Mercedes-Benz have to pay out for that? Only one issue, guess who did the repair? a Mercedes-Benz dealership. So I bought this car from a Mercedes-Benz dealership with a Mercedes-Benz windshield and a Mercedes-Benz warranty that didn't pay out when something broke as a result of Mercedes-Benz technicians and replacement work. That repair was $2,600. The warranty on this car was something like $3,000 or $4,000 extra. I will never again purchase another Mercedes-Benz CPO warranty. And if you're wondering if the automakers give me special treatment, the answer is no. They just deny my warranty claims like everybody else. To me, Mercedes-Benz CPO, not worth it. Don't buy it. Get a third-party warranty or just go with no warranty at all, because apparently that's what I've been doing for the last 3 years, even though I thought I had Mercedes-Benz CPO coverage. But now let's talk about some of the benefits of this car. One, it's fast. It's really, really fast. You put it into sport mode, it feels really quick. Throttle response is amazing, and I've always been surprised at how quick this car is, especially above 60, 70 miles an hour. Floor it there, and it's just got so much power to give, and I've always loved that. For long highway travel, this has been a fantastic high-speed cruiser. Number two, another thing I really like about this car, the styling is so subtle. It is so restrained, you would never know that this is the high-performance AMG version on the outside unless you really knew what to look for. When they facelifted this car and came out with a new one, 2014, it just had more of an in-your-face performance look. Most of them had black wheels, they had this giant front grille to try to really drive home the performance point. To me, this was the much more subtle AMG wagon, and I love the fact that pretty much no one knows what it is except the few people who know what it is. And by the way, over the last 3 years, I've made a list on my phone of all the people who have noticed the AMG wagon randomly in traffic, and here is that list. These are the cars that have slowed down to take a picture, who have revved at me, waved, given a thumbs up, visibly noticed this car. And you can see there've only been like maybe 20 of them, and it's all other performance cars. And I just love that subtlety. You have to be a car enthusiast to know. When I'm at the gas station in my Ford GT, everybody comes up to me and they just can't help themselves. They have to say, you know, cool car, do you want to trade? Or hey, what did that cost? Or how fast have you had it? Everybody. But with the AMG wagon, only car enthusiasts ever come up to you. And those are the conversations you want to have. And I always find that to be super rewarding. It's just really subtle. It totally flies under the radar, but it has the performance to make people say, what? That's station wagon. There's something different about it. I just love that. And next up, another big benefit of this car is that it's really practical. This is the flip side of the it's too big drawback that I mentioned a second ago. It's practical. You can get a ton of stuff back there. Like I mentioned, I moved in this car. I had a U-Haul truck that was driven separately, but I put a ton of stuff in the back of this car when I drove it all the way across the country, and it just swallowed it all up. I always loved how practical this car was. So yes, it's big, but you also get a ton of room to put stuff in it, which you don't often get in a car that's this fast and this rare. Next up, another big benefit here is this car has really good technology for its age. This car is almost 10 years old, but I never felt it was really that far out of date. It has Bluetooth audio that syncs the moment you get inside. It has blind spot monitoring. It has adaptive cruise that will go all the way down to 0, and you can easily restart the car again, which is a crucial feature for me. It has night vision for driving on like dark country roads and seeing animals or pedestrians. It really is loaded with tech. I never really felt like I was in that old of a car because of it. One other feature I liked and I'm really gonna miss, the car has cooled seats of course, but it also had adaptive seat bolsters. So you would turn hard to the right and the seat would inflate on your left so you don't go sliding around in your seat. And I think that's basically the coolest feature because you don't have to always sit there in really tight sport seats hating your life. Instead, you can have comfort seats most of the time, but if you're going hard in a corner, then the seat will kind of turn into a sports seat on the go. It's a great feature, and I'm really gonna miss that one. And next up, to me, another big benefit of this car is that it is a special way to have a family car. So often you get a family car and you're getting a minivan or an SUV and you're just telling yourself, oh, I'll be back in a sports car one day. Oh, I promise. Yeah, really. But nobody ever really believes leaves you. But this is a way that you can have a family car that's still sporty and cool and exciting and rare and makes you happy. And it just gives you so much car enthusiast credibility. So many people would come to me and say, oh, I'm having kids, but I'm gonna get an AMG wagon. Don't you worry. And then they end up with like a GLE 350 or something. The people who actually do this, who make this their family car, there's so much credibility there, and it's just a cool way to have a family and a sports car in one. And I really like that. And finally, another big benefit of the AMG wagon is that it holds its value a lot better than the sedan. Obviously, I don't know what mine is gonna sell for, but based on recent sales of other ones, you can see there's like a 20 or 30% premium for the wagon, maybe even more, just because it's so rare and so special. And it's funny because a lot of people who buy the sedan say, oh, I don't wanna spend the wagon premium. But the truth is, that wagon premium has held for the car's entire life. So to me, the wagon is definitely the way to go for these cars, especially if you're buying one used. Yes, I understand there are not many of them. It's very hard to find one, but you will get more money when you go to sell it. You won't lose as much value, and it's the more special, the rarer, the more like car enthusiast-y version of this car, and it's more practical. There's really no drawbacks for the wagon, so I definitely recommend it over the sedan. Now, in addition to the pros and cons of this car, I also wanted to address two other points that I think are worth mentioning before I say goodbye. One is the cost of ownership for this vehicle. I haven't totaled up everything, but truthfully, the cost of ownership has been relatively normal for a Mercedes-Benz, which is to say that oil changes, services are all pretty expensive, but generally speaking, the car hasn't been unreliable, it hasn't stranded me, it hasn't had any major breakdowns or issues, aside from the windshield repair that I just told you about, with one big exception. The biggest expense on these cars is undoubtedly the brakes. And this car doesn't have carbon ceramic brakes, which are notoriously expensive. It has regular steel brakes, and replacement happens around 70,000 miles typically, and the cost is around $4,000. It's about $3,200, $3,500 just in parts. The brakes are tremendously expensive. So if you're thinking about getting one of these and it's at the 50, 60,000 mile mark, just understand brakes are coming. I did replace the brakes on this and it was really, really expensive, but I knew it was coming from an earlier AMG station wagon that I had owned. And that brings me to my last point, which is, will I miss it? A lot of people have asked me, oh, well, you're gonna miss this thing. It's such a cool and special car. Won't you be sad to see it go? And the truth is, yeah, I will be to an extent, but I haven't bonded with this car quite as much as you might think. There are two major reasons for that. One is I love fast wagons, and I've already owned my share. I had a Cadillac CTS V-Wagon, and I had an earlier body style of the AMG wagon. So this is my third fast station wagon, and I don't quite have the, oh my God, I'm in a 500 horsepower station wagon kind of mentality as I did when I had the other ones. There's also the fact that I have fun cars that I really have bonded with. My other cars I kind of consider to be friends, companions. This one has always been just sort of the trusty workhorse daily driver. And so, as wonderful as this car is, I just don't feel that love connection with it like I do with some other cars. So I will miss it to the extent that it's a cool car that I've enjoyed for 3 years that's going away, but I probably won't be crying or exceptionally sad like I would be if it was maybe my Land Rover Defender, which I consider to be one of my best friends. And so that sums up my 3 years with my Mercedes E63 AMG Wagon. I will miss this car, but if the AMG Wagon appeals to you, head over to Cars and Bids and bid on mine, and we'll make sure that it goes to a good home. And keep checking out my main channel this week as I plan to announce my new car, my replacement for the AMG Wagon. I suspect it isn't exactly what you might think.